It's a show that's just devastated for Timothy Chalamet. I don't think Chalamet wanted this at all.
I just think Chalamet's getting elevated to a space where.
Well, he's one of the biggest movie stars in the world. But KW.
I'm just saying to the
I think
Knicks
you're
fans.
assuming the audience is more online than they are, maybe. Tell them why.
Well, Tibbs got fired.
Tom Thibodeau got fired.
Well, they know who Tibbs
that part they do.
Well, then just turn off.
I'm just saying,
just turn off.
Reggie Miller calls him Fizz.
Okay.
They might think it's Fizz.
Good
Go
job,
watch something else.
Just say it.
Go watch something else, for real.
Golly.
All right, we're starting with the news. I don't have a script, so I don't need to read anything. The New York Knicks fired Coach Tom Thibodeau, even though he led them to their first back-to-back 50-win season in ages. They've been steadily better, although they made the playoffs, missed the playoffs, lost to Eastern semis twice, and then lost to Eastern Conference Finals. First back-to-back 50-win season since 1994. So your immediate reaction, Brew, to this development?
You're going to hate me, Wilds, but I'm just surprised it happened. Meow.
Oh, God.
I'm surprised at the timing. Meow. Why meow? No. I tried to lighten things. You're hurt. I know you're shaking, so I'm trying to lighten things up.
Here's why I'm hurt really quickly. New York was on fire for the last month.
They named streets.
Yeah, and it was just going crazy. And it was the best Knicks basketball I have been a part of in the city since I was here. I moved here like 2000.
It's not saying much.
No.
But still, it
real-
was like
real
the
talk.
whole city was energized. There was a thing on New York One about
Are you
added-
still drinking out of your
my
Halliburton
gosh.
cup? My God.
That's an accident.
No, it's not an accident. This is going to stay here till the finals are over.
Okay, all right, sorry. Go ahead.
Anyways,
Yes.
the more
They get down 3-0 maybe. I'll go back to the regular.
I just thought it was a bad move. I think it's a bad move.
All right, here's my look. I said yesterday, I've been saying for the past few weeks, I would not have gotten rid of Tibbs. I understand it, though.
Wow.
I've been saying that in the offseason, I think one of the things they need to do is sit down with Tibbs, the front office and coaching staff and all that, and talk about we need to have a different type of offense. Jalen is great. Jalen can average 28 for us for the next 3 years maybe, but are we going to win that way? So the question was, one, would Tibbs even adjust and, want to run a more egalitarian offense where everybody's getting involved? Or is he able to adjust? This is how Tibbs is coached. He did this with Derrick Rose. This is pretty much how he's coached. And so I think that question is legitimate. And then I talked about the bench. Again, is Tibbs willing or able to go deeper? The things that people were complaining about and that I wanted them to change are things Tibbs done throughout his career. And here's why I'm not, again, I would not have done it if I were Leon Rose running the Knicks. I was thinking I would give him one more year. Let's see if we can make these adjustments. But the reason I'm not going to kill it is because we have seen stuff like this happen before and work. Like Mark Jackson, and I'm not saying he was Thibodeau, but those Golden State teams were good. They were winning close to 50 games, if not 50 games, and it looked like there's a ceiling. And Steve Kerr comes in, the rest is history. Phil Jackson, Doug Collins was getting, I know there were other circumstances, but Doug Collins was getting Michael Jordan and crew to the Eastern Conference Finals, and it was a ceiling, it seemed. Phil Jackson comes in, the rest is history. And so heck, look at Cleveland, and I get it. They got bounced in the second round. But J.B. Bickerstaff wasn't because he wasn't a good coach. He did a great job in Detroit, including in the playoffs. But they needed a new voice, and Cleveland did get better. And Detroit, Bickerstaff made them better. I think Tibbs will get a job, if not this year, we'll see what's open, but certainly in the near future. But I'm not going to kill them because this could work. Well, they do need, I think, to change the way they play.
I mean, all right, so it definitely could work. Sometimes these are the best shows and sometimes they're the worst in that where you don't have hours to think about it. It's just like It's your instant reaction. Mm-hmm. So I'll just tell the audience my honest instant reaction. First one was when the regular season ended, they planned to fire Tom Thibodeau and they were not going to let what was a surprising playoff run changed their mind. It can't be because they underachieved in the playoffs. It's not what happened.
But they may feel that way.
No, so
you lose to you know what I mean? It was a lower seed. I get it because I picked Indiana and I thought they were better.
But do we think that? But I guess my point, if they're firing him now, then had they done what we all thought they were going to do, which is get clocked by Boston, and at the end of the year, it's like, oh, the Knicks finished 2-18 against the best teams in basketball, he was getting fired. And so to me, they had made my gut reaction is, as the season was winding down, they were already planning to move on. And then the Boston series happens. If you're a Celtic fan right now, the loud Celtic fans that, I'm not talking about you, KW, honestly, I'm not being smart aleck here, but the ones who are online loudly saying how much of a fluke that series was, part of the Knicks front office might agree with you. Like, we won, but we shouldn't have won that series. We were down 15 in the first 5 games, and we're not going to change our path because of that. When Michael Malone got fired, one of the things ownership said was, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it was along the lines of like, well, we thought this team could go on a deep playoff run, and we already knew we wanted to move on from the coach and didn't want a deep playoff run to make that more complicated. So I think there is evidence that. That's one thing that popped in my head. The other thing that popped in my head is this quid pro quo is the wrong phrase, but do they have messaging that, hey, if you hire person X, that might encourage Giannis to say, that's where I want to go specifically. And again, like I said, I'm obviously not reporting this. It's just on the brain of Nick Wright, what I thought of when I heard this. Because I do think it's surprising. Because while you are explaining, Brew, why it's understandable, you're not explaining, and I don't think you're trying to explain, why it's what you would have done. And it is surprising to me, particularly when I don't know. Like we always say, grass isn't always greener. I don't even know what color the next grass is because I don't know who they're like. Who's the hot coaching candidate?
My guess, educated guess, whatever. I think they're going to look at Johnny Bryant, who is the associate head coach with the Cavs. All right, not even just a typical head, because he's a 4-year assistant with the Knicks with Tibbs. So whatever the best of Tibbs he could bring. You know, he's came up in that. And the offense, though, that's what I'm talking about more. Because, look, maybe people don't agree with me. I actually think, and I'm not saying Brunson will be the leading scorer, and that's fine. But bringing him down to 23, 24, cats around there, Bridges and OG.
You're saying what Cleveland did this year.
Yeah,
and I know it didn't work for them in the
Johnny
regular
Bryant
season.
See, the Cavs problem, they had injuries, but also they were a bit soft. Let's just keep it real. That's not the Knicks.
But is it?
That's
could it
not
be,
OG and Hart and those guys.
But that's my.
But to your point, run that that same offense that Cleveland does, that type of thing.
One of the other reasons. Sorry, Wilds. Then go. One of the other reasons I wouldn't have done this is, we look at this postseason and their defensive lapses and like, that's un-Tibbs-like. And they run the risk that a year from now or 2 years from now, you look back on this year and be like, man, that was the best a defense possibly could have been when you're playing Cat and Jalen Brunson a combined 80 minutes a game. Like there is, you know what I mean? It is certainly on the board that even though by Thibodeau standards, this was not a great defense, it was actually the best defense that you could have when your 2 best players and your 2 leading scorers, one is a triple minus defender and one is just like almost an aloof defender in Cat. And so like that.
And to that point, Cat, a lot of his best seasons, if not his very best, are with Tibbs.
Yes.
Certainly he's been a better rebounder in Minnesota and New York with Tibbs. So Tibbs brings out some grittiness and toughness in him. But I look, again, I'm not saying I would have done it. And I had been saying earlier in the year that if they get bounced early in the playoffs, they should move on. But I'm just saying, if they're looking at it, Johnny Bryant might get hired by the Suns. Now, if I'm him, I'm waiting. He's one of the finalists. I'm looking at the Knicks, obviously, over the Suns. But I think that may be what they want to do, is get a different offense in here.
I think it's very dangerous to break up a true team And this goes back to something when we were talking about Gerard Mayo getting fired by the Patriots. Greg asked me a question off the air. He's like, I haven't watched a ton of Patriots. I was like, it's okay. He's like, what do they do well? He's like, what do they do well? And I was like, ugh. I was like, nothing really. This was a team built in. It was a Tibbs team. It was a real team that played a certain style. And if you want to say the Celtics game was fluky, I could say.
I'm not even trying to. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
as a working theory. I ascribe those comebacks to like that's what a Tibbs team.
I agree with.
Never gives up. A lot of motor, a lot of energy. And if you're talking about the biggest fluke in the series, I would say the game one.
Yes.
Halliburton game was the biggest fluke.
Well, and then Nesmith turning into the greatest player in NBA history for.
So if you're disappointed in the season, I also don't know any Knicks fans who are like hugely disappointed. It feels like they came up short. If you want to act like, if they don't go crazy in the last 45 seconds, like
of game one,
maybe then we've got game 7 at home.
Well,
I know that's a butterfly flaps its wings, but it's not like they got blasted by the Pacers.
But it was look. As much as I'm Naptown and all that. They're not like some phenomenal
But they
team.
beat the Celtics. It's not their fault that the way the
Knicks beat the Celtics. But you can look at the Celtics and say Porzingis was really not there.
Oh my
obviously,
goodness. I don't know.
I'm just saying,
that's what they've got to be doing, Wilds. It's not what Brew and I are saying we would be doing. But if the Knicks make this move, it's either they went into the playoffs saying, unless we make the finals, or maybe even unless we win the championship. But I think if they make the finals, you can't fire anybody. Unless we make the finals, we're firing him. Either that, or his job was safe going into the playoffs, and despite making the conference finals, they have less faith in him. Because they look at it and they say, man, we were down double digits in 2/3 of our playoff games. It took these crazy comebacks. It took this amazing clutch stuff. And so it's a weird spot because I am making an argument right now for a move I wouldn't have made. But I'm trying to. The Knicks didn't all of a sudden they don't think they're acting outside their interest. They think this is the right move. So it's either they were done with him at the end of the regular season. He lost stature in their mind in the playoff run, which seems impossible to believe. The third thing, which you seem to dismiss, but I don't think can be dismissed, there is a player they think they can get, and they think this helps them get it, which I think is.
I mean, that would be fascinating.
On the board. I don't know who that would be. You know what I mean?
It's got to be Giannis.
I mean,
no, I don't know who the coach would be. I'm saying, I don't know. I mean, Thanasis.
This would support that statement. Players, if you come to play for Tibbs, you know you're playing heavy minutes.
But Giannis wouldn't mind that, I wouldn't think.
Look, I mean, obviously, if they knew they could get Giannis, and obviously, the league, you got people out there asking questions and whispering and hearing things like that. But I just think that would support your theory, is that players are like, man, I'm not trying to play 40 minutes a night in the regular season and have a 7-man rotation or something like that.
Giannis wants a Coach Bud reunion. I just
feel like the Giannis stuff is overblown with New York, but maybe,
I don't know.
I can't unless you Michael Jordan, LeBron James. I mean, I can't let a player run.
No, but he's saying that's your star player.
No, I know. Wants to play for Tibbs.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Almost to the point where it's like, it's an absurdity to ask me that.
Look, again, I'm not saying I would have done it. I'm on record saying I wouldn't have. I get it. Like, Tibbs, when is this style with a ball-dominant point guard won a championship?
Well, can I?
He did this with Derrick Rose, and they always fizzled out in the playoffs.
Can I defend? Because this might just be a basketball. Maybe this is just all detritus of my belief in Luka. That's where I think you
Luka
and I
is 6'7".
That's kind of where I'm going. Is Jalen Brunson playing this style because of Tibbs? Or is this the only style Jalen Brunson can play and be as good as he is? Yeah, that's what I think.
His scoring numbers will go down. I'm a Brunson fan. I'm not saying, I don't want him being the leading scorer. I'm just saying, when I look at that starting unit, I see 4 or 5 guys that can score. And I don't think it has to be 2 guys doing most of the scoring. I think they should be a little more balanced.
I think that might be true. I guess my point is, I think that might be more about Brunson than Tibbs. I know you bring up,
but that's how Tibbs is coached when he's had that type. Derrick Rose, they had Boozer, they had Luol Deng, they had other guys that could score too.
But I guess my point would be, do we know what that Bulls team would have been, or was it the year they won 60 games? They ran into Apex LeBron, and then Derrick Rose blew out his knee. And you know what I mean? And then they just weren't, like, I don't know.
But Harden playing this style.
The heliocentric style, like, Luka's gotten to a finals, and like you said, Luka's 8 inches taller than
difference
Brunson.
When you're that big.
All right,
I just don't know who the coach is going to be.
I bet it's a big name.
Who are the big names?
I don't think they're going to. I mean, most of what this front office has done has worked. I don't see.
I mean, he's coaching again.
Yeah, with the Clippers. Yeah, I don't.
Something.
I mean, Tibbs learned under Van Gundy.
Yeah, I don't know if Van Gundy would even do it. Van Gundy's such like a loyal guy.
He would do it. He would definitely do it.
I don't see that.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.